Yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Boker Tov, good morning. Shavua Tov, a good new week. We continue our journey in these morning meditations through the morning service. We're now on the third section, Kriyat Shema Ubirchoteha, the recitation of Shema and its blessings. Three blessings that kind of encase the recitation of Shema, that speak of the experience of the divine, of the holy, in three different manifestations: in the giving of Torah, in the love, in the learning that is embodied by the gift of Torah to us, and acts of liberation in human history. And this morning, we pick up with the first of these blessings before the Shema, Yotzer, which speaks of the power of the divine in the ongoing work of creation, our experience of the sacred as manifest in the natural world. Yotzer, the name of the blessing, means creator of light. And light is the motif that runs throughout the prayer, because it both opens the creation narrative in Genesis. God says, Vayhi or, let there be light, and there is light, and thus the creation begins. It also marks the creation of each new day with the rising sun. Interestingly, I'll note in a kind of tangent that the light that begins the creation story in Genesis day 1 is mystical and curious, because the sun and the moon and the stars are not created until day 4. So the source of this light on day 1, not clear. The Kabbalists say it's a mystical, supernal, extremely potent divine light that is hidden away after its creation for a future time. The Lurianic Kabbalists say it's the light that fills the vessels that shatter, and we have only sparks of it that we can kindle and gather by doing mitzvot. But whatever its source, we have light in the creation narrative, and we have light that comes with the rising sun each morning. And this morning I want to focus on the opening line of the blessing, which is short, but it contains multitudes, rich in history and theology, and challenging. The blessing begins, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvorei choshech, osei shalom uvorei et hakol. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who forms light and creates darkness, who makes peace and creates everything. The line is not original mostly to the rabbis. It comes from the book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 7, and it's preserved intact with one exception. The rabbis changed one word, literally the final word of the line, because in Isaiah, the line proceeds as praised are you, not the praised are you, but it begins with God as the one who Yotzer or, creates light, uvorei choshech, as in our verse. These opposites, God makes light and creates darkness. But Isaiah says, osei shalom, makes peace, as our verse. Uvorei hara, and makes evil or trouble or bad. Isaiah, this latter portion of Isaiah comes from a time when the prophet was living when the dominant religious tradition was Zoroastrianism in Persia. And Zoroastrianism believed that there was not one, but there were two gods. The one God was a God of light and a God of goodness. And the other God, the demiurge, was a God of darkness and of evil. In some ways, this is an easier path to hold than that of the pure monotheism that Isaiah espouses. After all, if the good things come from a good God, then we want to praise that God, and we don't get stuck with this problem of how does all the pain and the suffering, all the hurt, even the horrific horror in life come from one God who is good. But Isaiah wants to insist on exactly that. Isaiah is a believer that, as we sing in Shema Adonai Echad, there is one and only one God, and that God is the source of all. And so his pairings make sense. They're opposites. God makes light and God makes darkness. God makes shalom, which is wholeness, peace, and God makes hara, which in this case probably is the opposite to shalom, is a lack of wholeness, is division, is fracture, is the absence of peace, is the absence of tranquility, is conflict, pain. So where do we go with that? Well, the rabbis, in changing hara to hakol, said God makes peace and God makes everything. Now, if you really parse it, of course, everything includes the bad stuff. I mean, really technically, if you look deep into the meaning of the word, the rabbis are not contradicting Isaiah. If God creates everything, God does create hara. God creates the lack of tranquility, the lack of peace, the pain and the suffering in the world. But while this may be included in the technical meaning of the word, the feel of the verse is very different. For the rabbis, the notion of waking up in the morning and praising God as the source of evil, of conflict, of discontent, and of suffering it's a little hard to take, and it is still a little hard to take, which is why they changed it. But it's important for us to wrestle with. It's easy to see God in the good. I'd like us to reflect this morning on is it possible to see God in that which is far from good? Is it possible to see God, the presence of God, in pain and in suffering? And her translation of the passage, her paraphrase in her feminist Siddur, the Book of Blessings, Marcia Falk translates, "Let us bless the source of life, the source of darkness and light, heart of harmony and chaos, of creativity and creation." I like that. I like to wrestle with this notion of God as being present in chaos as well as order. So I'd like to end with a line to reflect on, some words to reflect on that follow this question of finding God in the darkness as well as the light. A short poem by Wendell Berry called "To Know the Dark." To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight and find that the dark too blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. Reflect for a moment this morning. What is it to know the dark, to go dark, and to see that which blooms and sings even or only in the darkness? Yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. God of light, God of dark, you are one. We conclude with the counting of the Omer for today. This week we are focused on Tiferet, on beauty, on balance. And today we have Tiferet Sheb'Tiferet, on balance and beauty within beauty, from Rabbi Yael Levi. The natural inclination of the heart is to seek balance and truth, to be in harmony, to delight in beauty. And so it is easy to go astray, to lose our balance as confusion clouds our perceptions. It takes practice to return again and again to beauty and to love. Hayom Shiva Asar Yom, Shehem Shnei Shavuot Ushlosha Yamim LaOmer. Today is the 17th day of the Omer.